Hey, boys and girls, it's Mr. Mac from the Harker School. Today, we're going to be doing some division with fractions. We're going to be dividing whole numbers by unit fractions, and we're going to be dividing unit fractions by whole numbers. So we're going to be kind of covering two topics, but are very similar to one another, so I thought it'd be a great idea to put them together into just one video. Just as a reminder, a unit fraction is a fraction that has a denominator of 1. So it is just 1/2, 1/3. 1/4, 1/5. All right, any fraction with 1 as a numerator is considered a unit fraction. So today we're taking a whole number and we're dividing that whole number by unit fractions. The best way to understand this, the how and the why, is to use models, okay? And we're going to do that right now. So we're going to start out with the first example that says a sports website has score updates every 1/4 hour. How many times does the website have score updates in a 3-hour period? So they show a model where you have 3 holes. This is 3 hours. Okay, and each of those hours are being divided in fourths. So we're going to take our model here and we're going to take them all and we're going to divide them into fourths. So I'm going to do the fourths like this. Okay. Now, each hour was split into 4 equal sections to make fourths. The question they're asking is, how many fourths do we have then? How many fourths of an hour are there? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 12. 12 fourths are shown in the model, which means that 3 divided by 1/4 is 12. You're saying you have 3 wholes and you're dividing them all into fourths. All right. So again, with the models, it makes sense to create 3 wholes, break them up into fourths, and tell me how many total pieces there are. All right. Now, when we have 3 divided by 1/4, if we're not drawing the models, okay, the idea of division, we're taking 3 divided by 1/4. Really what we're doing is each of these sections are broken up into 4 sections. So we're really taking 3 and we're multiplying it by 4. Here's how we get there, okay? We're taking the 3 and keeping it alone because we start out with 3 holes. And there are 4 in each section. So instead of dividing, we're changing our sign to be a multiplication sign. All right? And since there are 1/4 sections, we have 4 of them. So that's where the 4 is coming from. We keep our first fraction the same. We're changing the sign to a multiplication sign, and then we are flipping. We're taking the reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4/1, which is just 1/4. Okay, I'm sorry, which is 4 holes, excuse me. Okay, so again, we flip 1/4 to change them around so that the 4 is on top and the 1 is on the bottom, and that gives us 4 holes. So that's kind of where the quick and easy way to do the division with fractions lies, is by keeping the first fraction, changing your sign to a multiplication sign, and flipping your second fraction to look at the reciprocal. Okay, now drawing the pictures to me makes more sense in a mathematical understanding of this topic. This is if we just need to solve the problem with division, what you need to do. Okay, we're going to focus on the models today and also talk about kind of checking our work with this strategy here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to erase this page, and I'm going to move on to our next page, which is another example where we have 4 holes and we're dividing by sixths. Now, again, I can do my sixths if I want by drawing, 6 pieces on the inside here. Now, could you draw the sixths a different way? You absolutely could. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do it that way, but I prefer doing it this way just for my own visual appeal. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as there's 6 equal places, right? Excuse me. So I have 4 holes, dividing them into sixths. The question is, how many sixths are we going to have? Well, I can sit and count them all. Or I could say, I know that there's 6 in each, and there are 4 places, so that's going to give me 24, which is kind of like what we talked about earlier when we said if we have 4 divided by 1/6, keeping the 4 to be how many holes, and we're multiplying by 6 because each of these sections have 6 pieces, and I just flipped this fraction around. Okay, and that gives me 24. So the answer for this problem would be 24. And when you think about this lesson, right, having 4, and each of those 4 has sixths, and there's 6 of them, right? So 4, there's 6, 12, 18, 24 total pieces, right? Thinking about the real life application of it, that hopefully will make sense to you. So we're going to move on to our practice page, where I'm actually going to have us think about some of these problems on our own at first, and then down low they go over how you can check. So I'm going to talk about another way to check. Again, 4 holes, breaking it into thirds. This time I will draw the lines up and down because that's cleaner to me. Okay, and it's a lot easier to do when you have your paper and pencil, because this is tough to navigate. But each of them has 3 sections in it, so 4 times 3 gives me 12 total sections there. Okay, and again, down here, if you're checking with multiplication division, you work backwards using multiplication. So you would say, okay, well then what's 12 times 1/3? And we learned in a previous video that you should watch that 12 times 1 is 12. And when you're multiplying by whole numbers, this becomes a fraction over 1. 1 times 3 is 3. And simplifying 12/3 equals 4. All right, so 3, breaking them up into fifths. This is going to get a little tight. I'm sorry. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so how many sections are there? You could count them all, or again, there are 3 sections. They each have 5 pieces. That's going to give you 15 total pieces there. Work backwards. 15 times 1/3 equals 15 over 3. Sorry, over 5. Sorry. 15 over 5, which equals 3. Okay, so I'm going to have us pause this. You don't have to draw because obviously you're not drawing on your screen here, but I want you to take a look at it. Try to solve the problem on your own for numbers 4, and 5, and then I will check back in. So pause it and try number 4 and 5. Now that you've unpaused it, let's talk it out. 6 holes, and there's going to be, each of them is going to have fourths. So I'm breaking this up into 4 equal sections, close to as equal as possible with the marker that I'm using, because again, I'm sorry, they're supposed to be equal, I promise. Okay, so how many total sections are there? 6 sections, each has 4, so 24. I plug in 24 to work backwards. 24 over 1. 24 times 1 is 24. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, so we're good there. And then 5 holes, again, divided into fourths. I like to do the fourths this way. You can do it the other way if you'd like. All right, so again, 5 sections, each has 4 in it. That's 20 total sections. 20 over 1 times 1/4, 20 over 4. If you had trouble with the multiplying there, guys, go back and watch my previous video, which kind of, it goes over the multiplying. So this is dividing whole numbers by unit fractions. The next thing we're going to go over is, after I jump forward a couple pages, dividing unit fractions by whole numbers. So same idea, where we have a half, so we have half, and then we're breaking them up into 3 sections in there. But now every half is being broken up into 3 sections. So how many total pieces how many is each piece worth? Each piece is worth 1/6. You have a half and you're sharing it with 3 people. So the hardest part about this is, well, Mr. Mack, there's 6 pieces. Why do I not have 6 as my answer? Why is it 1/6? Okay, well, when you think about the problem, you have a half and you're dividing them up amongst 3 people or 3 groups or whatever. You're not going to have 6 if you started out with a half and you went smaller because you were dividing by a whole number. All right, so when you have a fraction and you're dividing it by a whole number, your answer is going to be getting smaller. So your answer here is going to be 1/6. Now, for checking purposes, if you work backwards again, you have 1/6 multiplied by 3. Okay, we always say the whole number is over 1. Okay, 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times 1 is 6, which simplifies to be 1/2. Sorry, my arrow kind of got a little crazy there. Okay, so that would show that your answer would be indeed correct. So moving on to some practice problems, because again, I want to make sure that we can get some practice in. All right, we had 1/2. We're dividing them into sixths now. Okay, so again, I like to do my sixths like this. Just a little bit quicker for me. All right, so each piece now is worth 1/12. Again, when we talked before about how to do keep the first fraction, change your sign from a division to a multiplication, and then flip this. Well, this is really 6 over 1. So when you flip that, that becomes 1 over 6. So then again, you get 1/12 here. So for this one, we have 1/7, and we need to divide them into 2 pieces. So this one's a little bit quicker. Okay, each piece is 1/14. And when we check it down here, if we wanted to check it, right, we should do 1/14 times 2, which is going to equal 2/14 or 1/7. If you want to do your keeping of the first fraction, changing the sign, and then flipping the second or finding the reciprocal, the opposite of the second, you're still going to get 1/14. All right. Hopefully you guys were able to understand this. If you had trouble with the multiplying, watch my previous lesson that was posted before. There's a couple examples that are here. You can also go and look at the links that are going to be attached to this video for a little more practice and some other videos. All right. Good luck. I think you guys are going to do great. Take care.